Hello! Hello Internet. Welcome to Paul's very fumbling first attempt at doing a Q&A. So I am Paul of PGS Music, in case you didn't guess from the subtle product placement logo around my neck. This is going to be a fun exercise for me, for anyone who knows me in person, rather than just through the internet, because I'm quite a rambly person at the best of times. So hopefully having some questions will keep me a little bit focused in what I'm saying. And I'm already rambling. I'm less than a minute into recording. Superb. Yes, thank you for the people who have sent me some questions. I'm a big fan of these kind of videos on YouTube, particularly people like Ola England. So I thought I'd have a go at one. Could be really simple this time. I've got some questions on my tablet. I've got my phone filming me, and I'm trying to remember to look at the camera and not just look at my own reflection, because I'm mirror image, because I'm in selfie mode. I've got some Pepsi Max, not sponsored, I just love Pepsi Max. To my side, so I can drink and keep talking. So yeah, let's give this a go. Rambly Q&A. Bear with me. So, first question is from Luke, drummer from Baal, who are currently on tour. Go check them out. How does the music you enjoy playing or writing compare to the music you enjoy listening to? Cool, thank you for that, Luke. A little while ago, this had been a much easier question to answer, because my listening taste has generally been quite broad for a while, whereas my writing tended to be quite specific to whatever project I was trying to get off the ground at that point. So it would either be doomy, stonery stuff, and then it went to being mainly thrashy stuff, and then more kind of doomy post-metal stuff with the most recent stuff I've been doing with Lamenya. But now, particularly with teaching and trying to make music a job, it's become much more eclectic, and I've been writing all sorts. So there isn't really a line anymore between them. I listen to most of everything, particularly with trying to do new styles and build lesson plans, and I try and write in virtually all styles as well now. So there is no divide anymore, which is quite fun, given that one day I could be working on a doomy, bleak, miserable Lamenya track, and the other day I'm writing a nice, poppy acoustic folky song. Horses for courses. Cool. Next question from Love the NHS, which is the lovely Ross. Thank you for the question. Can you play the ukulele? If so, what's your favourite song? Yes, I can play the ukulele. I would not claim to be brilliant at it, but I am keen and enthusiastic, as with most of my musical endeavours. Do I have a favourite song to play on it? In terms of what I've played so far, I dip in and out of it, and I've done bits for my pupils. In terms of whole songs I've played, the most fun one I've had so far would be the Ukulele Anthem by Amanda Palmer, which I did as part of my Acoustic 366 project last year. It's a very wordy, very long acoustic punk song, basically, with some very entertaining lyrics, particularly me singing about taking my flask of Jack, my vibrator, and all sorts of other fun things to work or school. Can't quite remember the lyrics. But yes, Amanda Palmer, Ukulele Anthem, and yes, I do play ukulele, just not tremendously, but good enough to teach. So that's all I need. Next, Karen. So, have you ever thought you've come up with a riff or tune, then realised you've heard it somewhere, or something you heard? Yes, yes, Karen, that happens a lot. And I'll be honest, it doesn't generally stop me from writing the song that I'm working on, but I own the fact that I have lots of songs that sounds like bits of other songs. Like back in my thrash metal band days with Night Shovel, the middle bit of one of the songs, after writing it, I went, this sounds a lot like the middle bit of Twilight of the Thunder God by Amon Amarth. Like kind of whereas mine went but it's in a different key and different rhythm, well, different notes at least. So I figured that's fine. I'll just own the fact that it's a bit of a homage. And lots of the Night Shovel stuff was a homage. There was bits of Devon in there, like I had a riff that sounded a bit like Vampira. There was a lot of Silosis influences in there as well. So yes, it happens all the time. But I say, most of the time, I just kind of own it and embrace it and make sure that it's different enough without being, literally a copy-paste. So thank you for that, Karen. God, with swishing the tablet. Almost looks like I'm organised or something. Cool. So, this one is from Heavy Panda Blues. So this is Tom. Hello, Tom. It's quite a long one, but a very good question. I love playing guitar, but I have this fear of plugging my electrics into my amp. Not that it will blow up, but I get nervous when other people hear my playing. I know I'm improving, but I am nervous at playing into an amp. How can I get over my nerves every time I want to plug in my electric guitars? Now, this is a very relatable question, so thank you for this, Tom. This reminds me of early days of learning guitar and trying to brave going into a guitar shop and plugging in and then putting the volume like low enough that no one else can hear it, but high enough that you can just about hear it. There is no kind of quick answer to this. I was quite fortunate in terms of performing that I started performing. I think I was either 7 or 8 when I started doing like amateur dramatic theatre. And my parents are both musical, so I've always been exposed to music, and Dad's always performed in bands, Mum's always performed shows, so I've always been around performing, so it wasn't too alien for me. But I can appreciate if you don't have that kind of environment when you're growing up, and that kind of access to instruments and opportunities to perform, it can be very nerve-wracking. Trying to think of what would be the best way to do this. I think in terms of if you were going, say you were going out to buy a new guitar, and you wanted to go try it, or you wanted to try an amp, I tend to have a certain like little repertoire of songs that I always tend to pull out of the bag, which links to a question we'll come to in a little bit actually, so I won't give any spoilers at this point. But yeah, I tend to have certain songs that I know that even if I'm just playing for me, should someone else hear it, it will at least sound like a competent performance on my part. So, but ultimately, as long as you're enjoying what you're playing, and as long as you are happy with what you're playing, I know it sounds like a cliche thing, but you shouldn't worry too much about what other people are thinking. As long as you enjoy it, as long as you like what's in front of you, try and zone out the people who are around you. Obviously, in a gig setting, it's different because people have come to watch you play an instrument. But in a situation like a guitar shop or something like that, just don't do the imagine everyone in their underwear thing. I've never understood that analogy. That one just seems creepy and weird. I tend to go with a case of just imagine that you are just playing to you. Just try and play like you would play at home in your bedroom or in your lounge or wherever your amps and guitars live. So, rambling answer, but I hope that provided some insight to you. Okay, next one, I smile a little bit because obviously I've seen the questions, but I've tried not to overthink my answers so I can be responsive and you can see them in real time. So, Colonel667, hello James, sorry, Dr. James. Do you have a 5 fingers of musical hatred specifically for metal bands? Now, I should give a little bit of context to this. When I was a teenager, because you probably guessed by now I'm not a teenager anymore, I used to have this, when you start getting like properly into music, and you start digging into particular genres, so heavy metal in my case, what a shocker. You have a bit of that. Sometimes you'll have that phase where like, oh, I only listen to metal. Things that aren't metal suck. So I had a thing I called my 5 fingers of musical hatred. So let me see if I can remember these. So they were, I remember this is like teenage, adolescent, angsty me. So don't expect much rationale for why I didn't like these bands. So if I remember rightly, it was Oasis, Coldplay, Radiohead, The Strokes. And then I think the pinky was like an interchangeable one. The last one I remember being, I think, was Travis. So in terms of those bands, as what am I now, 34? I can't remember all of them. Coldplay, I won't lie, I'm still not a fan, but I don't listen to it, and I have lots of other music to listen to, so it's not a problem. Oasis, well, I'll come to them in a minute because they aren't figure into one of the other questions. Radiohead, inversely, I've got a bit more of appreciation for. They're not my jam. They're not something I would actively listen to, but I have seen them live. I took my wife to go see them, and they put on a great show. Tom York's done an amazing job of keeping his voice in amazing condition, and I even enjoyed a couple of the songs. I know. Ironically, No Surprises and Paranoid Android was they were both belters live. And then the Strokes, again, I've grown a bit of an appreciation of. They're not really my jam, but Juicebox is a tune, and Reptilia is a great tune as well. They're both a bit like with Tool, in terms of I get why people love them, and there's like a song or two that I quite like, but I don't love anything they've done, and they don't press the right buttons for me. But that's just the way it is. And then the interchangeable one was Travis. Travis for me, I just got frustrated with the fact that lots of their songs were like one-word titles, and then their chorus was that one-word title over and over and over again. Take Sing, which the chorus was sing, 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 won't you sing, 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 and then Turn, which was turn, 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 turn. So yeah. But anyway, that's a bit of context about where the Five Fingers of musical hatred, adolescent, angsty, metal's the best thing ever-ness that I used to exhibit. So, to answer the actual question, do I have a Five Fingers musical hatred? Now I'm going to do that cliche, I'm getting a bit older thing of saying, I don't hate any music anymore. But it's true, I don't hate any music anymore. There's music I don't listen to, there's music I do listen to. And in between, there's the things I try, and then they go into one of those two categories. In terms of, I guess, more from the perspective of bands that I just don't get, which might be, I'm probably not their demographic to an extent. But I mentioned Tool, so we'll include them. So again, this is not hatred. This is a case of this is not for me. So yeah, Tool. I don't really. I get why people like it, but it's not for me. Things like your Bring Me the Horizons, Bullet from a Valentine, Five Finger Death Punch. So the more kind of, I guess, kind of commercially accessible end of their respective genres of kind of thrash. What were Bring Me the Horizon? I guess they were kind of like deathcore, and then who did I literally just say? Oh yeah, Five Finger Death Punch, who were in the kind of that metalcore new wave of American heavy metal. I knew I'd mumble my words at some point in this. New wave of American heavy metal kind of sound. So again, they're kind of, they feel like, to me anyway, kind of like more palatable diet versions of the genres that they make. I mean, I think I can probably name definitely at least two songs by Bullet I quite like. So Hand of Blood and Tears Don't Fall. There's a song by Bring the Horizon called Throne or Thrones. I've probably gotten that wrong. Which is a decent tune. Whereas, but then Five Finger Death Punch just not really anything for me there. And then what would be on the interchangeable finger? Maybe like a pop band. Well, then again, I like quite a lot of pop stuff, and increasingly so. I've kind of gone full circle in that sense as well. Of I had a pop phase, went back to metal, and then more pop has encroached on my life. Who else do I know? I guess it'd probably still be Coldplay. I still don't get Coldplay. They don't do anything for me. I appreciate that they're very popular. I appreciate they're very successful. But yeah, not my jam. That wasn't really a metal band, but close enough. They're there as the interchangeable pinky and as a reminiscent of the original Five. That was a really long, rambly answer. Sorry. Hopefully that you got something out of that. Anyway, moving on. Cool, Matt. Most underrated band / guitarist. Thank you, Matt. I had a quick think about this before I hit record, and it dawned on me that the band and guitarist are one and the same, in so much as the band, I would say, would be Shadows Fall, who sadly disbanded a little while ago, and the guitarists, so John Dene and I want to say Matt, I think it's Backhand. I'm probably pronouncing his surname wrong. Not that I imagine he'll watch us, but if you see this, Matt, I'm very sorry. So Shadows Fall for me would be certainly one of my most underrated bands. They were part of that new wave of American heavy metal that I briefly mentioned. So bands like Lamb of God and Chimera, those sort of bands who, and even Trivium to an extent. So bands who've gone on to do really well or reach a certain point and then disbanded like Chimera did. But unfortunately, Shadows Fall never got to that level, unfortunately, which is a shame because they were super talented. They had really interesting lyrics. They had that kind of Kill Switch vibe of very affirmational lyrics rather than just being anger, anger, anger. It was about kind of aspiring to be better, and there was lots based around like the kind of ideology of like Buddhism, so trying to ascend and reach a higher plane, that sort of thing. So yeah, and they wrote really awesome riffs. They were my first kind of exposure to metal bands not following the verse, chorus, bridge, solo, chorus kind of vibe. They were not like they were prog metal, but they were more progressive in their structure. So like riffs would like appear once and then never appear again, and the songs would ebb and flow as a result. And John Dene in particular, the lead guitarist, I'm a huge fan of his style in terms of his playing. Loved his Washburn custom that he used to have back in the day, Face Eraser, I think it was called. And so in terms of Shadows Fall, War Within is an excellent album. That was kind of their peak commercially. So that had things like What Drives the Weak and The Power of I. But the album before that was stupendous, called The Art of Balance. People who know me in person have rambled with me about music, will know what my rule about 95. So The Art of Balance is a 95. It's got some tremendous tracks on that. And going back to Karen's question, I have ripped off the Art of Balance album so many times, especially the song Stepping Outside the Circle. So yeah, Shadows Fall, highly recommend the Art of Balance. War Within's also excellent. John Dene and Matt, I think it's Backhand. I'm going to have to Google this afterwards. I might have to issue an apology in the comments. So yeah, Shadows Fall, guitarist and band, definitely highly underrated. Sadly not performing anymore. Right. Gareth. Hello, Gareth. I knew you'd get on this. Which band's artist have you grown to appreciate or even like more since starting teaching, and why? So, I mentioned about the Five Fingers earlier, and I mentioned briefly about Oasis. I'm still not particularly a fan of Oasis, but they are very useful from a practical standpoint in terms of doing teaching. So, in my early lesson plans, I have ones where introduce a couple of open chords and then use a song that has those open chords in it in a nice simple pattern. And Oasis has proven very useful for that. So doing C and F, which gives you half the world away. And then the one Oasis song that I actually like, I know, I said it, which is The Importance of Being Idle, which gives you E and A minor. I've definitely going to appreciate them from a practical standpoint. Some of the bands I've been exposed to so I try to include as much content that people are interested in rather than just following like a set pattern of lessons. So some of the artists I've been introduced to, like Youngblood, for example, I appreciate that Youngblood is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. He's got that kind of punk aesthetic going on, but also writes quite poppy tunes as well. So probably not punk enough for the punk people and probably too punk for the pop people. But he's a huge draw, so fair play to him. But there's a couple of songs that I've done with my pupils for his, and I quite like it. There's a song called King Charles, which has got a really groovy bass line. I did a video on it a little while ago actually. It's one that goes bum 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 ba da bum 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 ba da da, which is really quite fun to play. Trying to think of other ones. So particularly with you, Gareth, in fact, we've covered a huge range of artists. So I've gotten to dip into bands like Rotting Christ, who I've never really listened to that much. Got to dissect bands who I already like Unleash the Archers. And of course, we recently did some Meshuggah on bass. That was entertaining, wasn't it? Leave a granic pause for you to go. So some of the popular ones that I've been introduced to have been a welcome addition to my musical palette, I would say. Like I say, Oasis have at least serve a practical function for me. Have given me nice, easy songs for my beginner students. So cool. So Stephen, or should I say Dad? Hi, Dad. Big question. Favorite guitar riff. Now, I think if you ask any guitarist this, they would not be able to give you a single answer. So in terms of favourites, because I mentioned about playing in shops and having a repertoire. Look at me, I'm linking my questions. It's almost like I've thought this through. In terms of favourite guitar riffs, there are a bunch that I tend to go to on the regular when I'm either just like warming up or just noodling, or I'm trying out a guitar or an amp. So those generally tend to be the intro one from Black Shuck by The Darkness, because it's just great fun to play. Cold Sweat by Thin Lizzy. There's a bunch of Rage Against the Machine ones that I use a lot in my teaching, and again when I'm just trying things out. So Bomb Track's always a good one. Know Your Enemy's always a good one. and Guerrilla Radio, the F sharp trio of Rage songs. Also, some of yours, funny enough, Dad. So, Should Have Known Better. I use all the time, and Betrayed I use all the time, and I'm a man I use all the time as well. But you knew those already. So yeah, there's a bunch that I like to use, and then like the videos I've put up recently for my Learning to Riff playlist that I put together on Spotify. There's a bunch on there that I love. So Like to Flies by Trivium is a banger. Yeah, I said bang, and I'm 34. Deal with it. Vampira by Devin, which I mentioned earlier. Just great riff. One of those riffs like, oh, I wish I'd written that riff. It's great. And then if I can pat myself on the back briefly, there's a couple of from my own repertoire that I still play lots. So in terms of Night Shovel, my thrash band from back in the day that I mentioned, there's two in particular. So one is Stronger in Defeat, which you might have seen in the video, the one that goes it's the one that I'm kind of very consciously ripping off Black Dahlia. I love that one to bits. And then similar kind of vein is Beyond Salvation, which is one of my 3 Batman songs. Yeah, Paul likes Batman. Didn't you know that? From the Night Shovel days, which again, I think I did a video for that as well. So one goes remember to breathe, Paul. So in short answer, there is no singular one riff. There are lots and lots of riffs, and some of them you wrote. So cheers for those, Dad. Cool. And then last question, and thank you again for all these questions. Last one, Dario, asking the big question. Why the shorts all year round? And why did you start wearing them often? And naturally, of course, I'm currently wearing shorts. I'm not going to flash my legs at you, though. That would, that might put my video into a different age bracket. So I think it's easier to ask the second part of the question first. The when is very easy. It was the first year of university, so that was years ago. And the why is my very good friend, my hairy Viking jiu-jitsu strangling buddy, Will. So Will had a penchant for getting jeans and then hacking them off at the knee. So when we were doing tech work, it wouldn't get in his way. And I picked up on that. I was generally more of a camo pants kind of guy, to use the American form of pants rather than the British form of pants. And I liked a pair of baggy jeans back in the day, and some of them survived into uni. And then I tried them, I wore them a few times at doing some tech events or doing lighting and sound. And I was like, actually, this is a lot easier. And then it just kind of naturally segued into wearing them all the time. And now it gets to the point, as the people who are watching this will know, that if I'm not wearing shorts out in public, people get genuinely concerned and they ask if I'm okay. Which is very flattering, but it's also nice that it's become part of my shtick is the fact that I'm always wearing shorts. I mean, given to very briefly mention the lockdown. Have you noticed there's been a lockdown and a pandemic and stuff? You may not have noticed. But yeah, over the course of this pandemic, I think I've worn trousers like 3, maybe 4 times in the last 19 months. So to the point where I actually had to, we had a formal occasion, so I actually had to go buy some trousers. Whereas, I'm never short, I guess pun intended, never short of a pair of shorts. So, and the why? Well, the why is a little bit simple as well in terms of, and again, I appreciate this is not a music question, but I did jokingly put it in the blurb for I'm doing a Q&A, ask me things maybe about shorts. So someone took the bait, so I'm going to run with it. I'm generally quite a warm person in the physical sense. Hopefully in the emotional sense as well, people will think I'm warm, but physically I'm generally quite a warm person. So I never generally need more layers. So having my legs exposed and my beautiful shins aired at all times is very very appealing to me, to the point where working from home from desk, which is literally there, wearing shorts every day, it's just blissful. It means I keep cool, and also practical things like when it's raining or it's snowing outside and there's slush and there's mud and there's water, it doesn't soak up into my trouser leg because there's no trouser leg there. So yeah, happy days. And that was the last question. So, if you've made it to this far into the video, thank you very much for sticking with me. This is just something I wanted to give a try because, like I say, I'm a big fan of them. online, so I thought I'd give it a go. If I get really clever and snazzy, I might try and like crop in the images of the questions that I've answered so you can see them as I'm talking. Or I may just go, actually, I'm just going to upload it and just trim the top and basically trim me pressing start and stop out of it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you fancy asking me some more questions, I'll have another go at doing one of these. Might be as rambly, might be less rambly, more rambly. Who knows? Let's roll the dice on that. So, thank you very much again. Thank you very much to the people who asked me questions. And yeah, hope you're having a grand day. And see you in the next one.